Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may happen to be in the world. Welcome to IAG Live on this Friday morning, 10 a.m. Macau time. We've got a very spread around the world crew today. So we'll get straight into it and introduce our intrepid studio producer, Oscar Guiaro, all the way from Spain.
Hello.
Hey, Oscar. Now, I'm very jittery on this screen. My internet's not very good here. How am I appearing to you? Okay?
Yeah, you look okay. Not as good as some other time, but okay, I think it's okay. I think it's okay. We will do it.
Okay. Well, as long as you're hearing me okay, I'm definitely getting a very jittery screen at this end, but I'll make my way through it with the assistance of our managing editor, Ben Blashke. Come on in, Ben.
Hi, Andrew. I'm back in front of my fish. I've got good stable internet here in Sydney because I understand that Tasmania only got electricity a couple of years ago, so I will hold the fort if need be.
Yeah. We were using our wood and, kind of just the night and the evening. Yeah, I'm coming at you from Tasmania. Where Ben is down here this morning, in fact. So it was a very early start for me, at 4:20 a.m. Wake up to get out of Crown Sydney at 5 a.m. to catch my 7 a.m. The internet, yes, I'm only getting maybe about 2 frames a second. So you may have to carry me. The internet is not the best here. So hopefully, Ben, you can jump in and take over if need be. But yeah, right, Oscar tells me.
Yeah, you're a little bit of breaking up here and there, Andrew, but we've still got you at this stage, so we'll power ahead as best we can.
And on Saturday, 8 days from now, so I might try and find a better. Oscar, say goodbye to you. Enjoy Spain and continue to enjoy Spain, and we'll see you next week, and we'll get into the news of the week.
Okay.
See you, Oscar.
Bye. See ya.
Ciao. All right, Ben, what have you got lined up for us this week?
Well, Andrew, I thought what better place to start than our Asian Gaming Power 50 venue for 2026. Of course, the JW Marriott Grand Ballroom at Galaxy Macau. We announced the venue earlier this week, the official after party at the Ritz-Carlton Bar and Lounge. Terrific venues, Andrew. Looking forward to this one.
It's going to be great. Power 50 is always the night of nights. In our industry, always the first Friday in November. So Friday, November the 6th, and everyone will be. We'll have representatives of all 6 Macau concessionaires, of course, plus Solaire, our long-standing welcome cocktail sponsor, and there'll be representatives from other concessionaire, other gaming operators from around the Asia Pacific region, of course, as well. And there will be plenty of suppliers there, the usual suspects. You can see there, Light & Wonder and IGT have already jumped in to be platinum sponsors. See Han Casino Resort there as a gold sponsor. BCI Worldwide, the entertainment sponsor. As I mentioned before, Solaire, our long-standing welcome cocktails sponsor. They always sponsor the welcome cocktails. So it's going to be a big night. Usually have over 300 people there. Very, very senior crew, pretty much just directors and VPs and above. Table for each concessionaire, a table for each operator, a table for each supplier. And it'll be very, very interesting this year. It's going to be super exciting. Of course, Francis Lloyd has been number one for the past, is it 7 years now? 6 or 7. I know did he equal the record? Did he break the record? I think he's broken the record now, hasn't he, Ben?
Yeah, from memory, he broke the record last year, Andrew. I think I used the headline Seventh Heaven or something on those lines for his number 7 in a row. So, yeah, a great achievement.
Yeah, and he had at least one before that in a broken sequence. And, he broke the record, excuse me, previously held by Mr. Adelson, of course, Sheldon Adelson, who was number 1 for 6 years. But Pansy Ho has been certainly, how should we say it, at his heels the last few years, and the points difference in the power score has been very, very close the last few years, much closer than it was previously. And of course, you've always got big contenders up there, like Lawrence Ho, KT Lim, and Mr. Razon over in the Philippines. Patrick Dumont, that will be really interesting now that Rob Goldstein is no longer the senior role as chairman and CEO of Sands as he once was. So it's going to be a super interesting year and a tough year for the judges, Ben.
Yeah, Andrew, we'll be starting to work on our Power 50 very soon, actually. And obviously all of the results are sort of rolling out now. The results season is well and truly underway across Asia. And of course, that forms a part of the basis of our calculations for our Power 50 each year. So, yeah, we're starting to go through those numbers, Andrew, and do the early preparations. And we'll bring ourselves and our judges together and start to work through that process.
A few changes to the judging panel as well this year, which we'll be announcing soon. 1 or 2 exits and 1 or 2 entrants. It's usually a pretty stable judging panel, small judging panel. I think last year it was 9 people. It'll be something similar this year, and all very esteemed, knowledgeable people with a bit of a spread around the Asia Pacific region as well, to ensure that we've got experts from all over the place. So it's going to be very exciting. And it'll be a great night. It's always a wonderful night. Everybody dresses up. It's not one of these black tie gala dinners where it's called a black tie gala dinner, but everybody rocks up in an ordinary suit. I mean, people really do get dressed up on that night. The girls take the opportunity to wear very lovely ball gowns and everything. We have great entertainment on the evening. The food will be superb. JW Marriott are all over it already. I know our friends at Ritz-Carlton at Galaxy Macau are all over it as well for the after party upstairs. I'm up at the Ritz-Carlton bar. So it's just going to be a fantastic night. And make sure, if you possibly can get there, please do get there. I think tickets are 2,500 Hong Kong a head for such a wonderful, for it's been the same price for many years, which is quite reasonable for such a wonderful night. And tables are 10 times that, obviously. Hong Kong, 25,000 for a table, and there are sponsorships, I believe, starting at around 70 or 80,000 or 90,000, which provide a whole bunch of additional benefits on top of that. So if anyone wants to sponsor or support the event or go along, please get in touch with Jadeson, of course, Jadeson Ho and his team, and we'll get you there at the night of nights. And it really is a great opportunity to network and to meet people from all around the industry. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And with it being at Galaxy, of course, it rotates between the 6 Macau concessionaires. We've just announced a new set of years, actually. The 6 have already agreed for 2026 through 2031. So Galaxy for this year, for 2026, 2027 at Sands, 2028 at Wynn, 2029 is Melco, 2030 will be MGM, and 2031 will be back round to SJM. Of course, where we had it last year, we had it at Grand Lisboa Palace last year, back through the cycle again of the 6 of them, and that's already been agreed for the next 6 years by the 6 concessionaires. So thank you to the 6 concessionaires in Macau for their ongoing support of the event. We couldn't do it without them, and it's just a wonderful event. So really looking forward to that one. But we've got IAG Expo next month first to get through before we worry about the Power 50 too much.
We do, Andrew, and we'll be talking about that. A couple of stories related to that coming up as well. So we'll be talking about that very shortly.
All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar?
Andrew, so the NBA, of course, coming back to Macau. Tickets, so obviously I wrote this earlier in the week, so tickets are on sale now. Tickets went on sale on Wednesday. The 2 Texas teams, the Rockets and the Mavericks, playing each other this year. And look, this has just already become one of those events everybody looks forward to in Macau each year. It's one of those events that really moves the needle, creates a lot of interest for Macau. Great event for Sands China, and look, obviously Patrick Dumont has played a big role in bringing the NBA back to Macau over the past 2 years, and I know that our Chinese journalist Piers Chan will be certainly looking forward to this and heading along to the NBA China games.
Well, he's a big basketball fan. He's all over this, so good. That's a great thing for Pierce. And congratulations to Patrick Dumont. Obviously, he was instrumental in the acquisition of the Mavericks by the Adelson family, and having them come to Macau along with the Rockets on a 5-year deal. This is year 2 of 5. It's a very thing is going to go on for year after year, and obviously it will build momentum, and it's just great for Macau. It gives a lot of visibility for Macau into mainland China. I'm sure the expenditure for it by Council on Gaming commitments that they've made to the Macau government, as it should, and it's just a great event for Macau. And with China being so basketball crazy, it's a perfect fit. And this is going to be one of, if not the sort of premier big annual event the Sands puts on that really, as you say, moves the needle, because it's the buzz that it creates. Even last year I was in Vegas when this happened, and they were talking about it on Vegas sports channels or US sports channels. It was on business channels like CNBC. And I know it gets significant coverage in mainland China as well. So this is great for Macau. And being you're a former sports journalist, what's your tip for this series of games?
Oh, look, gee, it's hard to pick a pre-season game, Andrew. It depends on the whims of the coaches, who they want to play, who they want to rest, how they want to approach the game. Flip of a coin. That's the way I'd look at it.
Yeah, well, it's just a great exhibition for Macau. And what's the exact date again? The event that it's going to be on?
There we go. The 9th and the 11th of October.
11th of October. So 2 games there. That will be. I might miss that again. Unfortunately, I might be in Vegas again. This is a bit of a problem. I'm always in Vegas in October for G2E, although G2E is early this year, but I usually stay on for a few weeks. Got to reorganize that. Anyway, we'll figure that out next year. All right, what's next, Oscar? That's a great event for Macau.
It is, yeah. But talking about great events for Manila, Andrew, is IAG Expo, and we closed out our public submissions period last week. We had 507 public submissions for the 2026 IAG Academy IR Awards, part of the IAG Expo at Newport World Resorts in Manila next month. And that's a record number of submissions, Andrew. So, these people are starting to get pretty excited about these awards.
Yes, they're growing these awards. And, these events, these annual events, they take a bit of time to get going. It was like the Power 50. It's the 19th year this year. It's very, very well established now. But I will remember in the early years, it wasn't taken as seriously. It's now taken extremely seriously. But these awards, unlike the Power 50 that recognize individuals, these awards recognize generally offerings and the best of various categories in our integrated resort industry across the Asia Pacific region. And, they're getting more and more recognized. It's the 5th year now. And you can see some pictures there from last year's event. The event's getting bigger and bigger. We have well in the room, again, a very senior crew. And there's a lot of competition between Galaxy Macau and Marina Bay Sands and Melco and Sands in Macau, and some of the regional players as well, your Solaires of the world, even Crown Sydney, where I was staying all this week. It's great to see all these operators represented, and suppliers too. We've got awards for, the best supplier, the best innovation, the best products. And this year, Ben, also a special section presented by Complete iGaming for the iGaming awards. We've got 5 iGaming awards in there. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, well, there's a couple of reasons behind this, Andrew. I mean, number one is that our IAG Expo and the awards are in Manila in the Philippines, and the Philippines is the only place in Asia really where there is not only a significant online gaming, regulated, licensed online gaming industry, but one that is also quite connected to the land-based integrated resort industry. Most of the IRs now have an online gaming platform of their brands. So that's sort of why we've included 5 award categories for iGaming into the IAG Academy IR Awards. And of course, also they're brought to you by Complete iGaming, which is our iGaming brand that we launched on the 1st of January 2025. And we've put a lot of effort into growing that brand in the past few months. And of course, Kelsey Wilhelm is overseeing that brand for us now. And, we've got a lot of good content on there. So, please, if you want to follow the iGaming industry in Asia and North America, go have a look at Complete iGaming. And it must made sense to include these awards in the online gaming category brought to you by CIG. And I should note, Andrew, of course, we have an online gaming day of summit. We have the CIG Ideas Summit on Monday, the 14th of September, that kicks off our IAG Expo week. So, yeah, it's really a celebration of all things gaming in this week in Manila, Newport World Resorts, 14th to 17th of September.
Yeah, well, this is something that Padcore encouraged us to do. They're very happy with the IAG Expo being in the Philippines, of course, and they encouraged us, given their interest in iGaming there in the Philippines, and given the, all the iGaming that is attached to the land-based gaming in the Philippines, they wanted us to create some thought leadership event around it. We've now done that on the Monday. So now the IAG Expo's expanded. The Tuesday and Wednesday traditionally has been the IAG Academy Summit, which is sort of the land-based summit. But we've now got on the Thursday, the Regulator Forum, which again, Padcore asked us to do, regulators only. We're bringing together Asia-Pacific regulators. And as you say, on the Monday, the Complete iGaming Idea Summit, we're calling it, a one-day event all about iGaming. And I see the program for that's coming together really nicely. I think we're almost wrapped up the program for that. It looks like an absolutely great program. First year ever this year. So if you do want to see the full suite of things at the IAG Expo this year, you've really got to get there on the Sunday to be ready there for the Monday morning to go to the CIG, the Complete iGaming Summit on the Monday, which is then followed by the MAD event, Manila After Dark event on the Monday evening. And that's our biggest MAD for the entire year. That's a huge, already up to something like 20 sponsors. And I know last year there were hundreds and hundreds of people there. It was just a great event. And then the summit on the Tuesday, Wednesday, and the Regulator Forum on the Thursday. And of course, the awards, as you see here on the Tuesday night, that's the big social event. Bring your black tie. So it's going to be a great week, September 14 to 17 inclusive. And to get more information about it, IAGExpo.com. So what a great week it's going to be. All right, well, let's move on and get on to some gaming news. Instead of talking about our events, it's very event heavy for IAG at this time of the year.
Well, we should just quickly add this one in, Andrew.
Okay, well, you knock this one off quickly and we'll get on to some other news.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think we won't spend too much time on this, but for this year only, IAG is providing complimentary access to all 3 days of the IAG, or the 2 summits, the CIG Ideas Summit and the IAG Academy Summit. This is sort of in lieu of us having an exhibition this year, Andrew. Of course, we're planning to bring that back next year. Everything will return to normal programming in 2027. But look, I think it would be great to open the doors to the industry for this year and welcome in as many people as would like to come along, watch some great content, and we'll be announcing that content, of course, very, very shortly, actually, over the coming week or so.
Yes, unfortunately, this sort of situation was forced upon us in a way by our venue sponsors and partners, Newport World Resorts, but in turn it was forced upon them kind of by the government of the Philippines, because the Philippines is hosting ASEAN this year, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. This year is the year for the Philippines to host that event, rotates between the 4 teams, and they required the venue that we would normally in the week that we would normally have it for that event. And that event, people will say, "Oh, isn't that event just one event for the year?" But no, it's actually about 500 separate events over the course of the year. A lot of people are not aware of that. So there are many events all through the length and breadth of the Philippines in different venues on different days. So we had to pause the exhibition this year, just 1 year only, and then the exhibition will be back bigger and better, as you say, than ever in 2027. And because of that, we felt, well, if people normally they come for free to the exhibition, but they're not going to be able to do that. So what the hell, let's just throw the summit open. We normally charge for the summit. The summit's as good as ever. It's got great quality content. So it's a wonderful opportunity this year for people at no cost whatsoever to be able to go to all 3 days of summit, the CIG Ideas Summit on the Monday and the IAG Academy Summit on Tuesday and the Wednesday. So I think we can expect a good turnout, and it'll be a great period. A lot of interesting speakers. We always make a big effort to not have the usual suspects, not have usual ideas, but go for interesting and different ideas, things that maybe you wouldn't see in other conferences and other seminars. So it's going to be a great 3 days. All right, let's move on. What's next, Oscar? Nice picture there of Evan Spitmer and on that. I couldn't help myself mentioning Vina from Padcore and Evan from Casino Plus, of course. Still in the Philippines, Ben.
Yeah, so Padcore released industry GGR data for the second quarter this week. Probably no surprise that it's down around about 20.3% to US 1.45 billion. That's largely on the decline that we've written about extensively in the online gaming sector, which has been brought about, of course, by, the efforts to sort of regulate the industry and set out a framework. And for a little while there, the regulated industry was sort of growing almost out of control there, Andrew. So just bringing it back down. So that's not really a surprise. But good news for the Philippines is that land-based GGR showed a little bit of growth. I mean, that's been a challenge segment for a number of reasons over the past year or so. But, a little bit of light on the horizon for the land-based IRs with some positive momentum there.
Yeah, look, in some ways, this sort of follows a bit of a theme we've seen in Macau, a little bit lesser GGR, but sustainable and better GGR, with the driving away of the junkets from the very predominant and leading role that they used to play in Macau. Our GGR is down a little on the high water mark. It's still very solid and very good, but it's very sustainable and good and clean GGR that the government's happy with. I think the Philippines in this respect kind of emulates Macau in that, GGR was growing on the gaming sector just out of control. There were some social problems. There was a lot of advertising out there that was being seen by kids, out of home advertising in public places, the linking of e-wallets directly to gaming sites. The proliferation of gaming in the Philippines to Filipinos was a bit out of control. And I think Padcore learnt their lesson from the Pogos, and they have taken very admirable steps to rein that industry in a little bit, make it a little bit more sustainable, make it a healthier industry. And okay, GGR's down, as it says here, 20% across the board. Maybe online gaming's down a touch more than that, maybe 25%, but it's not going to go the way of the Pogos and just have the government turn around and cancel the whole thing. It's going to be a more sustainable industry moving forward. So I don't see this as a bad thing. I actually see it as a good thing.
Yep. No, I agree with that, Andrew. So, just something we'll have to keep an eye on how this plays out over the next 6 months, 12 months or so. I think it'll be quite an interesting story to follow. Yes,
the Philippines. I think the systemic structural setup of the Philippines is still very solid. Yes, it's going through some problems at the moment. If you just look in terms of year on year, people have an amazing year, and then the next year it's like, well, we should have the same. Just to forget about the fact that there was a huge increase the year before, the year before that, and just immediately jump in and say, well, that's normal now, and sometimes it's not. So I think, I think the negativity around the Philippines industry is a little overblown. Sure, there are some problems. There's some lower internationalization. There's some problems on the low denom slots and with local players with what's going on at the moment with the price of gas in the Philippines. Yes, there are some problems, but I think, they're not problems that are going to ruin the industry forevermore. They're problems that are going to resolve themselves over time. All right, what do we got next, Oscar?
Yeah, this was just a very interesting story, actually, Andrew. I mean, we've seen a few cases over the years with junkets going broke or money going missing from junkets, and we've seen various court cases. Of course, the Door one is one of the most famous ones over the years. Court cases determining who is responsible for that money when players that have deposited some funds cannot get that money back for whatever the reason might be. This one was a specific case where a player had sued for an unnamed concessionaire to basically pay back the money that they had deposited with a junket that they could no longer claim back. The money had been deposited purely for investment, so they were receiving basically a little percentage of profit on that every quarter, every year, however that worked out for them. So
every month they used to get.
Yeah, so an investment play for them, Andrew. But I think the concessionaires would have been pretty confident in their case here, and in the end, the court ruled that no, the concessionaires are not liable for that money. So that's a positive ruling for them, not so much for the player in question.
Well, I guess if you've got, it's almost akin to if you've got a restaurant in your property that you've leased out and they go bankrupt, you're not responsible for the restaurant's debts. There are probably a couple of schools of thought here. One being that, well, it's a separate business, a completely separate entity. Why would they be responsible? I guess the competing school of thought would be, well, you let them operate on your premises, a gaming business, you're the concessionaire. But I think it's probably, common sense has probably prevailed here in this result, because if it was to go any other way, the concessionaires would find themselves liable for manner of debts. I think our own company, IAG, is owed some money by some junket companies that we'll never see again. So what are we going to do? Turn around and sue all 6 concessionaires because they had rooms in the 6 concessionaires? It just doesn't work like that. So I think this was probably an opportunistic claim, and I think common sense has prevailed here. And also the other thing to be added was it was funds deposited for investment return. It was not player funds. So this is more in the nature of equity. Those junkets always used to, be looking for cash flow, and they used to pay quite high monthly interest rates as a sort of a bit of bait to try and get some cash flow. And I think if you go for those kind of returns, you've got to understand that there's risk associated with it. And, that's what's happened in this case. So anyway, a good result for the Macau there. All right, what's next?
Yeah, our friends at PhilWeb, Andrew, they've had a pretty good year, actually. PhilWeb's an interesting story because they underwent a change of ownership for around about a year ago, I believe. The new owners are actually already involved with the company, but they took control of the company and have sort of pivoted the business model slightly. They still have their traditional retail outlets that they've operated e-games out of for many years, but where they're really seeing growth is they've basically become a platform provider to the Philippines growing online gaming industry that we spoke about earlier. And particularly, they're providing platforms for a lot of the integrated resort providers. They announced Tarn Resorts. Can't recall if that was late last year or early this year. Akada Manila, Newport World Resorts, New Star, partnered with FBM. So that they're quite prolific throughout the industry there. And these released their financial figures, of course, this year that really highlight that growth. And good on them. And Andrew, I'll point out too that Brian, the president of PhilWeb, will be speaking at the CIG Complete iGaming Ideas Summit on Monday, the 14th of September. We've got a very strong lineup there. Brian, there you see in the picture, is one of our speakers, and look forward to hearing what he has to say.
Yeah, great business pivot by PhilWeb. And I remember they were in quite a bit of strife a few years back as a company, and they were really struggling with those retail outlets. And now they've really changed the nature of the company, new ownership, new approach, as you say, different business model, and now using the expertise that they've built up on online gaming like product, I guess you would say, to create to become a B2B provider rather than a B2C provider. So, PhilWeb done a very good job in pivoting and changing their business. And sometimes in business you have to do that, and it's worked out well for them. So they're going very well at the moment, and hopefully they can maintain that. And it'll be interesting to hear what Brian's got to say about the future of the online gaming industry in the Philippines when he does speak on September the 14th at Newport World Resorts in Manila. All right. Well, congratulations to PhilWeb on a good result for them as they move forward and change their business. And what do we got next, Oscar?
Yes, good old Crown, Andrew. So obviously, as you said, we spent the day at Crown Sydney yesterday, but of course, Crown Melbourne has undergone its own still in the midst of a very large transformation. So nearing the final phase of the Melbourne transformation plan. This part of it has been a 3-year process, largely built around reimagining their compliance, reimagining the property. As you can see there, refreshing the loyalty program. Just really bringing Crown Melbourne up to the standards, that are required by the regulator down there, but of course also the standards that they want to put out to the public. Crown's putting in a lot of effort, a lot of money into refreshing Crown Melbourne, really making it the heart of Melbourne again, as it was for many, many years, has been for many, many years down there, and doing a great job, Andrew. When I spent quite a bit of time down there a couple of months ago during the Aussie Millions, there's some new restaurants, there's some new areas, the place is buzzing again. They're doing a terrific job down there, and I guess, as I say, they're getting along to the end of this phase, but a bit more to come.
Yeah, it's great to be reporting on an Australian property actually moving forward with its business and creating new offerings, rather than talking about all the negativity that we've been talking about for the last almost decade around Australian gaming industry. And I think you look at the whole story of what's happened with all that stuff that came up, well, I guess 10 years ago now, or almost 10 years ago, and 8 years ago, and then with Kiran Carruthers becoming CEO and doing all that remediation for 2 years, then David Sy taking over, and now Crown have really come out the other side, got their licenses back, all 3 properties, Sydney, Melbourne and Perth. New leadership in there, new board, new ownership, obviously with Blackstone. So it really, the Crown that you see today in 2026 bears no resemblance or even. So they're moving forward. They've got through all that. They've come out the other side, and it's great in our discussions that we had this week in Crown Sydney, and that I will be having next week at Crown Melbourne. I'll be in Crown Melbourne. Actually, sorry, week after next. We'll be talking about the business again, and we're talking about stuff and various new rules and so forth. There'll be a bit of that, but they're focused on their business again and trying to book profits and offer a great service to the people of Melbourne. So that's great to see them focusing in that way. Star's got a bit of a way to go before they get there. Met with the very senior Star management this week. We won't go into that in any more detail, but it was great to see them start sort of moving through the journey the Crown's been through. So it's very, very good. And I see some comments. The Pirate, a new loyalty management system at Blackstone. Systems that also, isn't that interesting? Blackstone to acquire HSBC Australia's $36 billion home and personal loan portfolio. That's a real commitment to it. It is really interesting as well. The Blackstone commitment into I mentioned there as well the regulator forum on a Thursday. I think I did mention that at the IAG Expo. So thanks for those comments. And I see also their comment, Blackstone Melbourne mahogany room redundancies completed. Yes, probably as a sad but perhaps necessary part of the transformation of Crown need to right-size the business, given the new business environment that they're working under and within, and so redundancies were necessary, I guess. So Black Card patrons now informed of new VIP host allocations. Well, that's obviously going to happen if you have those redundancies. So, Crown making difficult decisions to right-size their business and make it something profitable moving forward. And I'm sure that those Blackstone guys aren't just going to sit there and let Crown crumble. They're going to make, turn Crown into a viable business. They've got a lot of experience at business transformation. So interesting to see what's going on with Crown at the moment. They're really starting to move forward. And of course, we met yesterday with Ken Jansen, the new CEO of Crown Sydney. We met him yesterday in Sydney. So you've got new all around at Crown. All right, let's move on. What's next?
Yeah, Andrew, Galaxy powering along as they tend to do. Revenues holding steady in the second quarter, 1.53 billion, slightly down compared to the first quarter. That's just following the market trend. Of course, we've seen every single operator talk about the impact of the World Cup in particular. In fact, it was interesting, and we will get to Melco later on. They sort of made a comment in their earnings call that the impact was actually larger than they thought, and probably larger than in previous World Cups. Well, that's probably because it was a larger World Cup in general, right? This year was a longer World Cup, more teams. So, look, that's affected everybody. But Galaxy, obviously they rode through that pretty well. Galaxy Macau just continuing to be the absolute beast of a property that it is. Galaxy is currently undertaking renovations of Star World, their original, well, not their original property, but I guess you could say their original integrated resort, perhaps, on the peninsula there. So that's, they're working on that. So there's been some disruption as well for them there. But Andrew, we always speak very highly of Galaxy. I mean, it's a great property. It's got everything. Galaxy Macau's got everything you could possibly imagine under one roof, and Galaxy Macau Phase 4 is on its way to by the end of next year. So, and you can see in that picture, it shows the sheer scale of Galaxy Macau these days. It's a highly impressive property, Andrew, and very well run.
Yes, I mean, I sort of describe it as a campus or a small city, really, rather than a property, because it really is multiple buildings now, interconnected, though, or mostly interconnected, and I'm sure Francis is getting to work, making sure they all are interconnected in due course. Your statement about Star World being Galaxy's first property is arguably correct, because it was their first wholly owned property rather than the city clubs they had before, which were partnerships with party Bs, as Galaxy used to call them. Of course, those satellite arrangements no longer exist in Macau. They were all banned from December 31 last year. So Galaxy just powering on. Good to see them doing some renos at Star World, although it's a relatively small contributor now to the overall Galaxy revenue number, which I note there is running at a run rate of about $6 billion US a year. Wow, isn't that a big number? So that behemoth of a property, and wait till Phase 4 fully opens, and they're going to be up to, 7,000 or 8,000 rooms or something like that. Clearly number 2 in rooms, and clearly the number 1 biggest single integrated resort in Macau, given that Sands have got 5 integrated resorts. I did ask Francis once, that he put it all under one roof, so to speak, and had one resort called Galaxy Macau, rather than the Sands model of having multiple brands. And he said he was very happy indeed with doing it that way, and he felt that in the long run that is just made it so much more of an attraction for people to come to it. And I agree with him. It's a bit of an all eggs in one basket strategy, but if that basket's going well, then there's nothing wrong with having all your eggs in that basket. And Galaxy, people bemoan Galaxy sometimes about problems that it's got and management issues, things like that. But when you've got a business that big, it's just such a behemoth, you're always going to have issues. You're always going to have things popping up and not going perfectly. But boy, you're also going to have a whole things that really do go right too. I've got that in some excellent hotel offerings, and the whole property, when you walk around it, it's just magnificent. So Yeah, just powers on. Another great quarter for Galaxy, despite the work. So well done to Galaxy, and well done to Kevin Kelly, Francis, and all the team over there. Obviously, Tom Arasi over there is CFO now, Roger Lionheart and Richard Longhurst, and all the guys over there. Another great quarter for them. All right, what's next?
Yeah, this is a really good story by Pierce. Really interesting story that Pierce wrote about the government's intention to invest $16 billion over the next 5 years to boost the economic contribution of Macau's non-gaming sectors. I mean, this is interesting for the fact that we've spoken extensively about the non-gaming contribution that the concessionaires are required to make over the course of their 10-year concession contracts. So it's good to see the government chipping in a substantial amount too. They've spoken about their goal of Macau over the years, and it's not going to be easy to get there, but they want to get sort of the contribution to GDP of non-gaming enterprise up to about 60%. It's a little bit short of that at the moment. But this is all about further economic diversification, Andrew, finding more avenues from which Macau can make an impact on the world stage.
Look, it's interesting. I think the 60% is a bit pie in the sky. I think they'll struggle to get there. But it's admirable to have such a goal, and I think they really did learn during COVID that all their eggs were in one basket. The Macau economy really do want to diversify, and they're really serious about this. I mean, $16 billion, that's pretty much a dollar for dollar matching of what the concessionaires were required to invest over the 10 years of the current concession period from 2023 to 2032. They're also required to invest $16 billion US, so $32 billion US between the two of them on over a 10-year period. It's a ferocious amount of money. So it's a very, very serious commitment to trying to diversify the economy. They are taking this seriously. There are some struggles in knowing exactly how to do it, and they don't, in some ways, don't really know what they're doing, but sometimes you just have to start. Sometimes you just have to start and try a few things, and I think some of the things that they're trying are not great and are not working, and I think some of the things that they're trying are working. So I think they will just learn as time goes on, keep what is good, throw out what is bad, and iterate. And they're trying. Is it a perfect process? No. Is Macau incredibly known for gambling and not very much else? Yes. But do they have a serious commitment to try to change that situation? Yes, they do. And they're serious about it, and they'll get there. Right? But they'll get Macau a more diversified and safer place economically without all its eggs in one basket. And that will keep mainland China happy, because mainland China doesn't really want a Macau that is totally 100% dependent on the gambling industry, an industry that's illegal in mainland China. So this is just the government doing, what it needs to do to keep mainland China happy, and also to a bit of insurance for themselves as well. So it's good to see them putting their money where their mouth is as well, not just demanding the money from the concessionaires. So very interesting. We of course have been following this very closely through our new Macau brand. If anyone watching is unaware, go to new-mac.com or just Google New Macau, and it'll be the first. And we have a brand that covers all this economic diversification and all the initiatives done by the concessionaires on this economic diversification front. And of course, we've launched this business Access Macau as well for companies that want to get a piece of that money, get a piece of the pie, and come in and offer non-gaming initiatives to Macau as well. So that business is progressing as well. So we're trying to do our small part to make a contribution towards the diversification of Macau as well. It's an interesting ongoing theme for Macau, and let's see how it plays out in the years to come. Any more from you on that, Ben?
Well, look, I was just going to say, Andrew, that one of the challenges in getting that percentage figure of non-gaming up is that the gaming industry just generates so much revenue for the government, and it's an outsized number because Macau is a small place, 30 square kilometres, and the gaming industry is such a large part of that. So, the non-gaming sectors could generate a substantial amount of money and still not make a massive dent into that overall percentage just because of the size of the gaming industry. That's sort of the challenge in hitting that 60% is that you're going to have to drive some pretty massive industries to be able to achieve that.
Point, sometimes people say to me when I'm traveling in the US, oh, Macau slot machine, only 6%. I go, yeah, only 6%, but 6% of an enormous number. It's you sometimes forget when you think in percentage terms, you sometimes forget the fact that Macau's GGR is 5 times the size of the next biggest market in the Asia Pacific region. And, little old Macau, as you say, 33 square kilometers, is roughly triple all of Nevada, not just Las Vegas, but all of Nevada. So it's a huge, huge gaming market, and to create substantial non-gaming revenue is going to be tough. So, congratulations on them for trying to do it. All right, what's next, Oscar? So our friends Genting.
Yes, so obviously Genting's results this morning, they saw a bit of a decline in revenues, gaming revenue down, non-gaming revenue up. It's a bit of an interesting time for Genting Singapore and their Resorts World Sentosa, because they are genuinely in the midst of their 2.0 multi-billion-dollar transformation, so there's a lot of disruption there. Of course, the other question, though, is that Marina Bay Sands is powering along and almost leaving Sentosa behind at the moment. So I think that Sentosa will be very keen to get these works done and be able to start to build and get those revenues back up to where they once were. But look, I'll say, Andrew, again, Singapore's a great market and the company is still highly profitable, even though it's not at its peak at the moment.
Put them in the shadow of Marina Sands is, EBITDA margins of 50% and more even sometimes, and just amazing numbers. But this is a real cash cow for the Genting Group, Sentosa. So it'll be very interesting to see when they do get all that work done, that Resorts World 2.0 work done. I'll really enjoy going there. They've keen for us to do stories on them and to look and see what they've done. I'm trying to get there. I don't think it'll be until next year, but we'll definitely get there and do some coverage of the work they've done, because they are going through a very serious revamp of that property, aren't they? What are some of the things they're doing, Ben?
Well, they've already launched the Ocean, which is, from what my understanding, I haven't visited there yet, but again, I also hope to get there sometime very soon. The Oceanarium, a very impressive facility there. They've opened their Weave area, sort of various retail outlets there. They launched a new premium hotel with suites recently. They are renovating other hotels. Of course, the whole new area on the forefront, on the waterfront there that they're developing is sort of the main part of 2.0 that will open in 2030, I believe. The other thing that we reported on recently was the general Sentosa master plan that the government is putting into play, which will also be developed over the next 5 or 6 years. That's going to transform the whole Sentosa island and the neighbouring island as well, and increase connectivity, bring new sort of outdoor attractions, and work with Resorts World Sentosa to provide even more reasons for people to visit and for repeat visits to that island. So it'll be interesting to see how that all plays into the long-term future of Sentosa and to its success.
You look at that run rate there, it's roughly $2 billion a year, right? And times are tough at the moment because they're doing their renovations and changes and so forth. That's a third of the Galaxy number that we were raving about before as a behemoth. So it's no small property, Resorts World Sentosa. If they can get their act together and get this stuff done, they do pose a significant threat to Marina Bay Sands. If they can, get their management practices right, get their offering right, get the product right, and they are spending, what's the number they're spending? Some ridiculous amount of $5 billion US or something.
It's around $5 billion US. So it's it's not a small number at all.
No. So it should be very impressive when they get it done. Well, we'll definitely get over there next year and do stories and do some in-depth coverage of what they're doing there. It's been too long since we've been there. Anyway, let's move on.
We've got a few comments there, Andrew. So,
You can fire with those.
Sentosa is a good poker area. I've heard quite a bit about the poker area at Sentosa. I have to pop in and have a game sometimes. Don't want to take everybody's money though, Andrew, so maybe I shouldn't. Star Club rules.
I'm sure they'll be very glad to see you there, Ben.
Yes, no doubt. Yes.
Sentosa increased house edge on table games. Well, what's new? Everyone's doing that. Mr. Genting Gambling Cruises. Well, they're still around. Our good friend Michael Johansson runs those cruises out of Singapore. What's it called now? Dream. They changed the name again, didn't they? I feel bad that I don't know it off the top of my head, but they've same boats though. But they changed the name again, so they're still around. And then what's the pirate saying here about new Star Club rules? Commence designed to increase revenue and new earn rates. Well, I think the biggest thing that they need to do is get their license back before they can start messing around too much. I think that's what they're really focused on Star. So, as I say, I was over there at Star Sydney this week, and I'm actually going up to see Star Brisbane and the Star Gold Coast later on at the very end of this month. Going to just 1 or 2 nights up there on my way back to Manila for the IAG Expo. So it'll be interesting to see what Star's doing up there. And this must be this morning, Ben.
Yeah, this was overnight. Melco released their financials for the second quarter. Very similar story. Revenue's down a little bit across the group to 1.25 billion. Again, this was largely on Macau market decline, World Cup impact. Also a little bit some low hold for Melco at City of Dreams Macau in particular that really affected their results. So the impact was primarily City of Dreams Macau, a little bit Studio City. Altira sort of went okay, how Altira does. Actually, though, some pretty positive results, a bit of an uptick in Manila, a strong uptick in Cyprus, and City of Dreams Sri Lanka just contributing a little bit to that bottom line as well. So mixed bag for Melco in the second quarter. Like everybody else, they've said that since the World Cup finished, they've seen volume really start to rebound pretty strongly. Same story for all six, really, Andrew.
Yeah, but hey, that's a pretty good number, 1.25 billion for the quarter. I mean, that's a run rate of 5 billion. That's only $1 billion less. See, I mean, I think the real success story there has been Studio City, hasn't it? I mean, Studio City's gone from being the sort of the forgotten IR of Macau to really now being a place to go. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Ben. When you had a look this morning, did you look at the split between Studio City and City of Dreams? What's that ratio? If you know off the top of your head, what's that ratio like now? Because it used to be City of Dreams. City.
Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head, but what I do in terms of an actual split, I didn't do that calculation. But what I noticed is that City of Dreams Macau felt the brunt of the impact for this quarter. Studio City was pretty stable, a little bit down, of course. Everywhere is a little bit down this quarter, but nothing that sort of moves the needle too much for them. They wouldn't be too concerned about that.
Lawrence must be pretty happy with how things are going at the moment. Remember, they were looking at selling City of Dreams in Manila, and now they've decided not to. Obviously, they couldn't get the price that they were looking for. I'm sure he continues to pay down his debt. There was a lot of debt incurred during COVID, and he's working on that debt. It's good to see a little bit better. I guess it's still a very small contributor to the group as a whole, but I guess the Israelis are jumping on a plane and flying over there and going to Grant's property there in Cyprus. So that's good to see as well. So I don't think that's a bad. I mean, I understand revenue's down 6% and so forth, but given the World Cup and how big it was and how I think it was big in a couple of ways, wasn't it? It was big, first of all, simply by having 48 teams instead of 32. And I think it was in the US. There was a lot of action around it. It was really hyped up World Cup. I don't think it lived up to the hype in many ways, but it was a very hyped World Cup. Trump was sort of there doing stuff. It drew a lot of attention, didn't it? A lot of sort of global attention, which would have hurt the Macau concessionaires. So given that, I think these small order are not that much to worry about. That probably augurs well for Macau in Q3, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I think I agree with all of that. I mean, the World Cup was 104 matches. This time around, I think it was 68 or something like that last time. So you can sort of see why it had that impact with some premium players putting their spend towards that instead of going to Macau.
Well, I think isn't it the most watched single sporting tournament in the world, even more than the Olympics? I think it gets more global audience than even the Olympics. So, you know, you can see, and China gamblers are football mad, right? So, you know, it's going to draw a lot of gaming action. All right, is that the last one, Oscar? Because that was this morning. I know you were up early doing that this morning. Or another one? Oh, this one's from. This was obviously a comment made on the earnings call, was it?
Yeah, so a little bit of an update here. The REM, is it REM? REM at City of Dreams Macau opening, they said in October. So after the Golden Week holiday in October. Yeah, it used to be Countdown, didn't it? It used to be a number of different names over the years. But
Hard Rock.
Yeah,
Libertine.
so of course Hard Rock. Well, it didn't actually become Libertine, did it? I think that was the plan at one stage.
No, it never became Libertine, but it was announced that it was going to be Libertine. It still counts.
So the revamp will bring it from 330 standard hotel rooms to 150 suites. So that's sort of following the trend in Macau to chase that premium mass customer. The company is obviously very excited about the hotel. They spoke about it glowingly this morning. Soft opening has already happened, so a little bit going on there. I'm sure you'll pop in one day and have a look, Andrew.
I will.
So that was interesting. For the other things too that were spoken about during the call, you can see there a new gaming area that's opened at City of Dreams Macau near the southwest entrance. I think there's 18 gaming tables there. Fair bit going on around City of Dreams at the moment. They're completely redoing the retail, fixing all that up. I mean, one thing, and I don't mean this as a criticism for Melco, but City of Dreams Macau has always been not the easiest place to find your way around if you're not familiar with the layout. It can be a bit of a maze at times. So I think management is very aware of that and doing a lot of work on all of that sort of thing. They spoke, and you mentioned earlier that Lawrence is very hell-bent on paying down some debt. Yeah, well, he reiterated that as well during the call. Dividend resumption has been put on hold till next year. 2027 is when Melco think they'll probably resume that. At the moment, they're paying down debt. Probably while the share price is down, some more share repurchases as well. That's sort of where they're putting their funds at the moment.
Who was on the call? Was it Jeff Davis and obviously it was Lawrence, and was it Jeff Davis and Evan Winkler there?
That is exactly correct, and I believe Kevin Benning was on there. I don't know if I didn't hear Kevin get a shout out. I think Lawrence and Jeff and Evan are all across it, so they spoke quite extensively.
Sure, KB would have did them as but he's done a great job with Studio City. As viewers of this show will know, we are not shy in criticising, where criticism is due in a constructive way, and so that means you've also got to praise when things go well. And I think he's done a great job with Studio City. Like I said on an earlier IAG Live, I was meeting somebody at Studio City one time, and I went in the wrong entrance, and it required me to walk all the way around from one end to the other, which was actually really good because it gave me an opportunity to sort of walk through the mall there and see the action. And it was just buzzing. The place was absolutely buzzing. Lots of families in there and activity on the floor. A real contrast from when it first opened. It really struggled to get action on the floor. So, well done to KB at Studio City and to Lawrence and all the rest of the team there. They're doing okay. They're doing all right, Melco. There was a lot of sort of criticism, and there was a lot of during COVID. They were really feeling the heat during COVID with all the additional debt, and they didn't have, unlike Sands and MGM and Wynn, they didn't have a parent company in Las Vegas to sort of call on for funds to back them up. Didn't Sands lent Sands $1 billion, and I think Wynn lent Wynn $750 million, didn't they? There was no opportunity for that for Lawrence. So Scott says the name REM makes a great deal of sense. I wish he should explain it, so I don't understand it. I need to ask where it comes. Is it an acronym? Do we know, Ben? We've got to ask. We've got to find out what that name's all about.
I think I knew at one stage, Andrew, but information goes out of my head quicker than it goes in these days. So who knows?
Yeah, there's so much to remember, isn't there? On the industry, there's so much going on. All right. Well, I guess that must be the last story for this week. Oscar, is it? Let's see if he brings another one up. No, that looks like it. Avid viewers will be noting that I also actually fell quite ill a couple of weeks ago, and that's why we didn't have an IAG live last week. I'm mainly recovered on the mend. Doesn't stop me travelling around, of course. So, as I mentioned before, down in Tasmania at the moment. First time down here since COVID. So it's good to be down here. I'll spend this upcoming week down here. Then on Saturday, 8 days from now, I'm flying to Melbourne, a week in Melbourne, and then up to Queensland to see the Star Gold Coast and Star Brisbane. That'll be fun and be very interesting to meet the CEO up there. And then on to Manila, of course, for our IAG Expo, and you'll be over there, Ben. When do you get over there, Ben?
Actually going to be arriving the week prior. They're planning to head up to Hahn for a couple of days, head up to Clark and go around and do the rounds. Also going to be visiting the Light and Wonder team up there in their Clark office. We'll be undertaking a little bit of a charity partnership alongside Light and Wonder in the Philippines to help out some communities in need. So we're going to be involved in that, and we'll be writing a little bit about that in the future. Looking forward to being part of that as well. So working with them now. So we're going to spend a few days up in Clark, Andrew, then head back to Newport on the Saturday ahead of the Monday kickoff of IAG Expo.
Yeah, we'll have a big team there. I think we'll have about 15 people from IAG on site, and as well as all the people that we hire as well to help out with the event. So Dorothy and her team will be busy, and as will many other people there. Kelsey will be there. You and I will be there. Scott will be there. Jason will be there. Alex will be there. Oscar will be there. Michael Reardon will be there. There'll be a lot of, so it's going to be a great event. And that is September 14 to 17, IAGExpo.com. So go check that out, because that is now only just a month away.
Yeah, looking forward to it, Andrew. It's going to be a great week. As we mentioned earlier, the summit programs are coming together very quickly now. We'll be announcing them soon. Yep. I believe the IAG Idea Summit will come first. That is very close to completion. And look, bringing these summits together is not the easiest thing in the world, Andrew, but I'm quite liking the look of some of the speakers that we've got lined up. It's going to be a pretty interesting and informative few days.
Yeah, getting the balance right on that is not easy, because everybody loves information, but not so many people love to give away information, and you want interesting speakers, and that's not always the easiest to do. The people who are the most interesting tend to be the ones who are busiest with their businesses and time out. So luckily we've got a lot of supporters and a lot of people who are really good operators in this industry who do support IAG, who do read IAG a lot and are willing to chip in and help us, which is great. And so we've got to get the balance right between getting these summits done too early or too late. If you get them done too early, you will miss out on that could come in late in the piece. You want the thought leadership events to be as up to date as possible. So we do try to leave a little bit towards the end, but have it mainly done. I think it's looking very good, isn't it? It should all be announced in the next, let's say, 2 weeks. We'll have everything announced. I'd say CIG probably announced next week, and then probably IAG the week after, I guess, the final rundown. And of course, as we mentioned before, get in there for the awards. That's going to be a great night. What's on the agenda for the weekend, Ben? Some sleep, maybe. You've been pretty busy this week. Yeah,
nothing too much, Andrew. I think I've got a mate's birthday on the weekend that I'll pop into, and not too much else other than that.
Yeah, I think I might try and just get some recover a little bit from this damn virus that I got in Macau a couple of weeks ago, and take it easy this weekend, and then hit the ground running on Monday as usual, as we always do. So look, I think that's about it from us. for this week. Everybody for watching to the end. Subscribe to our IAG YouTube channel if you can. That'd be great because we don't have too many subscribers there. We have never really pushed that very hard. So it'd be great if you could subscribe to that and like the video. And changes coming to IAG Live in the weeks ahead, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. And we'll have some great IAG Live content directly from the floor of the show, the IAG Expo as well. So that's going to be fun. So have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Say bye, Ben.
Bye, Ben.
We'll see you next week. Bye for now.